Okay, so I'm going to start with the base, and I wanted to just take a quick look at it in this isometric view because this has a little more arc. This one's squared off. No good reason why that is, but we don't really know, and that's always the limitation with these projects. Of we have a very narrow scope of what this thing is actually doing. So when I look at this, and I always will go back to the trust your gut. There are times where just removing a bunch of material makes sense, and this is kind of one of them. That if I try to draw in too much of this geometry, I'm going to make it more complicated. If I draw this end face and kind of bring it this way, I know that there's some steps and some geometry in there that, again, either the mating surface or whatever is being built in there. So I think that's my my goal, is to generate this block. So we want it to be pretty close to our drawing, then this will be on the right plane. We'll generate our U shape, extrude it, go ahead and extrude it out, and then start making cuts into the geometry. So let's fly these guys out of the way. And we need a project folder, so maybe I'll do that at first. Let's see, we're over here, so let me get into my assignments folder, and we'll fly this guy in. And so new folder, this is going to be my final project. Oh, and I did want to put a P9-13 on it. Alright, so that gives me a location, and I know where to look for that now. And we'll open up our part inch, and looking at these numbers, I guess that would be a quick comment too, is the 0.75 stack up of tolerances, 2.375 on the height, leading, trailing zeros. The indicators are that we are in inch. Let's see if it says that anywhere on the. So a lot of times it will say units and inches, but realistically 15 millimeters. This is going to be teeny tiny, and our half 13 and quarter 20 holes are not going to fit into something that small. So just doing a quick reality check. Alright, so opening up my sketch on the right plane. And I would like this to be, well, let's just go ahead and stay with the S key. I would like this to be centered. I think that might help a little bit. So draw my rectangle, select the origin, select the line, make it a midpoint. We know that this is 5 inches wide. And we had a height of the 2.375. The lines, then we can either do the jog. I think I'll probably just stay with sketching in 3 lines. I'm going with the contours and regions, and I missed that one a little bit. All right, so we're just going to drag that midpoint, and we have a choice here of setting, say, symmetry with a construction line, putting in the 2 dimensions. They're gonna stay at the 0.75 side. Get my drawing situated here. So in that case, I think I will go with the center line. Find my midpoint, make that vertical, and then back into the dimension, and 0.75 on the bottom. Alright, there's also a step for the 0.5, and I'm not seeing where that is just yet. So on one side, and then it looks like it stops. So we're going to have to decipher that geometry. Well, I said I wanted the 0.75 first. I'd rather stay with removing material rather than worrying about adding it back in later if I need it. So the next choice is, do I want the origin at the bottom middle of the part? Is there an advantage there? Not particularly, but I'll go ahead and use it. So extrude, I'm going to do this mid-plane, select my contour and region, center line becomes part of that, so go ahead and pick. I wouldn't necessarily pick the rectangle. It's not going to find, we didn't create any breaks or split the entities at that location, so picking the regions is still going to be better. Oh yeah, it would probably help to give it a distance. So 15 inches, and make sure to rebuild. Alright, so that gives us our basic block. Alright, so the 0.5, and we'll have to find that in the section view. So we're looking that way. You can kind of see it there. It comes up and over, comes back, and then 2 inches, and it just so happens to coincide with that. So yeah, that we will see. All right, so just well, let's make this a little more fun and complicated. I would recommend that you open up a sketch on this end and use the sketches, either convert or share the sketch. I'm going to go with the right plane. S key, open up my sketch, and I'm going to put the rectangle from corner to corner. And we have the 0.5, and if I'm missing anything, hopefully I will catch it. Alright, so I'm doing this to mainly illustrate the offset to face. So if we go to extrude cut, I know that this cut is going to be for 2 inches, but the from is surface face, and then it's still set to mid-plane, so we go to blind and condition, and I'm checking my preview. That looks pretty good. So we go ahead and accept that. Expand out next to the feature, click the sketch again. Let's go back into the extrude cut, and this time the from will be surface. We could do the calculation for the offset. I know I said offset, and we want to reverse, so I would have to offset it 7.5 inches, and then it would come back 2.5 inches. Picking the face is just going to be easier in this case. Alright, so in the process, I'm sure we'll run across a radius or something in there. So 1/2 inch fillets, all fillets and rounds. Yeah, it seems a little bit large for that interior since we picked those up at 1/4 of an inch. But let's fly it back in one more time. Find that. And we can kind of see the step there and the step there, and then the through hole. And then it's kind of difficult to see what they're doing here. So if that is not a through, if that is just a step down, well, need to interpret that a little bit more. It does show it as a base. Alright, so if I come back over to this picture, there is no material removed here. So I wonder if that is where the arm comes around, if that's just clearance for it to miss on that end, in which case, yeah, okay. Got the fillets and the blends going on here, and all of these steps. You know, again, there's a level of complexity in that part that I just don't know needs to be there. In fact, there's some things here that would make it even a whole lot simpler. All right, so the cut throughs then. If we go to the front side, I'm going to zoom that up a little bit on my other screen. So we're okay on the dimensions. Just quick check. All right. So our lines then, and we're going to go sketch, ski, line. I'm going to stay with the contours and regions since there is kind of a complexity going on here that I'm not real sure about. So since I'm laying this out, that would be the 12.5, that would be the 6. I'm going to try to avoid that midpoint, 4.75 and to 1 inch. Alright, so if we go through and put some dimensions on these, I don't need to go to a super high level of detail here, since I'm just trying to get this geometry laid out and kind of deciphered. So if I was designing this from scratch, then I would make a different set of decisions. So, you know, given what we have in the discovery of not knowing what we don't know, and 12.5, and then the bottom step 0.88. We have our first real decision is, do I stay with the 0.88 or do I round it to the 3 decimal places? Not a critical tolerance, so let's go with the 0.88. So if I saw this as a critical tolerance, then I would want to do a little bit more with it. Alright, so since I didn't close this off, and I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to get here, since these are all open contours. Thin feature. So if I try to turn off the thin feature, and we are in the cut extrude, I do want to go, it's still giving me a blind. So interestingly enough, I didn't think about, or I didn't catch that I didn't draw anything, but let's go ahead and try this. If I give it a blind, I'm not going to get up to next. Through all would go through the back side, which I don't want, so I would have to put in the 0.75. Again, making this way more complicated, but that's kind of what I want to do. I want to challenge you to think about some of these solutions. So, yeah, it's only going to give me the from sketch plane. I was still expecting a sketch plane. So that being the case, let's just go ahead and highlight that and convert the entity. And now when I go in, I'm going to be able to extrude cut. We have the contours and regions. I have up to next. Alright, so some of the clues that you might pick up to be able to see those items. Alright, so that gives me my tower on the section AA, or what would be well, based on their orientation, the bottom of the part. Well, at least rotating it that way. So let's see, we go to the other side, and I want to rotate this into the same position so I'm not losing too much of the orientation, and we'll do a Control 8. Nope, flipped over, so Alt arrow key, one too many. Alright, and so we're going to have the same. Let's just go ahead and convert it first. Oh, guess it would help to get into the sketch. And it rotated again. So sometimes the rotate sketch normal to view is not very convenient, but we'll go with it. Oh yeah, and I said I was going to convert first. So we convert those edges, same as coming up here, sketch, convert entities. Now we are looking at this upside down, so my 0.88 is going to go this way. My 0.75 is going to go this way. And we're going to have a tower. Let's see, we have 4.5 and 6 again. And then we're out at, well, that's strange that they didn't stay with the datum, but 2 inches off of that end. Alright, so 0.88, 0.75, we had a 4.5, and we were at 6 inches. And where did that one pop up at? Okay, so I need to go back to my view and double check this because there were only 3 and now there's 4. So 1, 2, 3, this would have been, and then looking at it from this direction facing the other way. So I think I'm pretty good there, but they included dimensions for the 9 and the 10.25, which should work out, but do duplicate dimensions in the view. So since that's actually looking through the part, I'm going to leave that one off and just go with the 2-inch. Alright, so and I can verify that real quick. I've added the hidden lines visible, but if you haven't, then you would come over to the display style and hidden lines visible. So that line should be the 9 inches and that should be the 12.5 or 10.25 if I've done that right. Alright, so back to shaded, and we're going to feature extrude cut. Up to next again. Those are my 2 areas to remove. I'll go ahead and accept that. Alright, so if I go back to the isometric view, that looks pretty good. Alright, so far we have a good mix, and each of these views has some duplicate dimensions on, so you're going to need to watch out for those. I think if they hadn't split it up with the section views, they probably wouldn't have run into those so much. Okay. So I've got enough complexity in this that this would probably be a really good time to go ahead and save. Because I really don't want to do this again. Up to this point. And so we'll hold our base and save. Alright. We'll check the geometry real quick. So fillets, looks like there's a lot of fillets to contend with. I'm not real concerned about those at this point. So I would like to go ahead and put in the hole location. So we have a 1/2-13 on this side, 1/4-20s by 3, 1/4-20 2 holes through. So the 1/2 inch depth is along the base, so that kind of makes sense that those would be called out differently. So picking the face, going into the hole wizard, and Control 8. Alright, so this is a threaded hole. We're going to make sure that we're in ANSI inch if you want to use an M12 by 1.5 or whatever. You could put in metric fasteners, but we'll stay with what we're given here. But kind of be thinking about those options as you're going through this, that there may be good reasons to make other choices. So you always want to keep that available. Alright, so the 1.25, and we'll go into the dimension. Make sure that you get out of that point tool that you're not going to keep, and since I did not catch the datum there, we'll just do a Control Z, and the datum was from the opposite side, so 13.77. And that is not an obvious fraction. I could say pretty close to, but not anything that I would worry about going out another set of decimal places. Alright, and then 1 inch from the base puts it pretty close. And we'll go ahead and accept. Okay, so that's what we're seeing is that opposite side. So that's fine. And we're just going to work side to side. So if I follow my strategy and need to go back to adjust dimensions or verify dimensions, they'll all be in that same grouping. So we want a 1/2 inch thread. We got plenty of room. Whatever they give me, I'm going to give it a little bit more. So pretty much I don't want to skimp on those hole depths in the call out. And based on their call out, the 1/4-20 to 1/2 inch depth is fine, but we're going to, when we dimension this, the whole call out is going to give us 1/4-20. We're going to get the 201 drill to 0.75. If you don't include that, then you're basically telling the machinist, drill it however deep you want, and he's going to, he or she is going to generate that geometry based on whatever the best machining practices are. So we're going to bring 1/2 inch. Okay, let's try. I got it again. 0.5 and 5.25. And we have the 9 inch. Alright, and then I pretty much just want to put in 1, so going from left to right, make sure I only get the items that are crossing, make those horizontal, and then when I put in my dimension, we are 0.375 from the base, and we can go ahead and accept that. Alright, so those are looking pretty good. We've got 2 more. So let's stay with the normal 2. S key, hole wizard. This time for the depth, we'll tell it to go up to next, and the thread will be up to next. And just a real quick check, that's 3/4 of an inch. It probably doesn't need the thread to go all the way through. especially since the other one was ½ inch. So let's just take a look at that call out, and for consistency, if I tell it blind ½ inch, then basically it allows the tap drill to go all the way through, and then the tap only has to go part way. All right, so same thing. We'll grab those 2 points, go to horizontal, set a height, and we had 1.88. Just double checking that that is not a chain dimension, that it is from the baseline. 0.25 from the edge, and then I'm not sure why that one jumped to. I don't think they were still selected, but that was kind of interesting. We could go with the 5.25. If the intent was that this hole and this hole would be vertical, since it didn't play out that way, I'm going to go with the 5.25. Chances are if this was my design, I would make that vertical and deal with change of dimension. But if I need to adjust those, adjusting them independently may come in handy. So that gives us the geometry on that side. Let's go back into the hole wizard. All right, and then Control 8, Alt arrow, arrow, arrow. Okay, so let's fly this in, make sure, quick check. All right, so ½ 13, 3 at quarter 20, 2 at quarter 20. Our geometries and rounds we'll get to. So we go to the next one. Have the same grouping. So there's the 9 and the 10.25, but that's on the opposite side. So really not helping with section BB there. Pretty much the same geometry, 0.5, 0.25, 5.25, 9 inch, 13.77. So it's the same grouping, just the opposite. I would not, as first inclination is to copy and paste, and then probably would not go that way. So blinding condition, I gave it 0.75. 0.5 on the depth, just making sure that the countersinks, thread callouts, those things are called out. Did it again. Alright, so we'll go across the bottom, put our 3 blind holes in, make sure that those are horizontal. We have the point. Interesting. So here's a place of consistency. 0.375 on the other view. 0.38. Now plus or minus 5 thousandths as a standard tolerance on this 0.38. Positionally, yeah, I'm going to stay with the 0.375. That would be something that would hopefully get caught in the design review and redlined, and we try to catch it. I think, as far as the hole positions, those are a little more critical if we establish the same datum and where those are going to work from, especially if I guess they don't go all the way through, so they don't have to line up that close, but we're going to stay with 0.375. And then 0.5. And we're going to get our second iteration when we're going through that holder side geometry, kind of doing the cross check. 9 and 13.77. Okay, so those look good. And if I want to check the hidden lines visible, then we're going to see the grouping but reversed. And we're starting to accumulate a few whole wizard items. So let's go one more. Whole wizard. If I was doing a lot of these, I would probably turn the rotate view, but it might still do it in the whole wizard. So it'd be something to check though. So 1/2 inch, and then we go to positions, and sure enough, let's see, since it rotated, we're going to have one there. And either I went to the wrong side. Alright, let's rotate this over again. And I did not get the 1/2 inch in there yet, so well, that's fine. That's on the 5.25, and the 1/2 inch is 13.7. Okay, so let's go ahead and get those two in there. And we can select horizontal. We're 0.25 off of the edge. Alright, so things are going to get overlooked and missed. The main thing is when you catch it, then you're going to want to correct it. So it is that ongoing process. So again, with the 1.88 positional, now that one ended up with either that or it chopped the one off. So I will have to double check that that sketch. All right, so we're going to stay with the 1.88 and then the 5.25. All right, so that looks good. All right, so the quick is to expand out. I can leave that one at the 9. I'm really not too worried about the order of those geometries. I do need to rebuild though. Okay, so that one comes into view. Go back into the whole wizard, and we're going to the 1/2 13. Got the 1/4 20 on the brain. Up to next. So it is going through the near side, so that's fine. Position, it rotates. We'll go to the 1 inch. And off of that far side, .77. Okay, and then we can go ahead and accept that. So all the geometries in there, we'll use the assembly to double check our numbers. Alright, so 1/2 inch fillets and rounds. Good time to save. So let's go with the over the top. And it is a little strange that they would do that, but let's fly it in. We'll take a closer look at this geometry. Notice how that's kind of truncated, and the 1/2 inch. I'm going to say that just is kind of painful to look at. We know that that is 3/4 of an inch, so 3/8 would make more sense. But let's see what SolidWorks does. All right, so if I go Control-7, we find those guys. The other ones aren't going to be as much of an issue, so I'm going to hit Escape a couple times, make sure that I'm clear. And let's go ahead and pick those. See, I'm not seeing my little box pop up, so and that one's going to be on one side is the bigger, so let's double check that. Oh, the reason the box didn't pop up is I am pre-selecting all of those, which means that I haven't gotten into the fillet yet. Alright, so 0.5. And I don't have the full preview, so let's see what it does, but it does make it kind of a little more of a point. So that one actually picked up more, so let's see why that is. Alright, so 0.75 on this side, and they did 1 inch on this side. Well, that makes absolutely no sense at all. So since, I mean, it's drawn that way, but that's just ugly. So one of the things that I would want to check. Okay, so we go back through, and as I highlight these, figure out where I was at, come back to that one, and I don't like that one. So I'm going to go ahead and modify it and clean that up a little bit. All right, so nothing else. If I don't see any major issues with those guys, then I'm going to leave it. So the inside shapes. Does not look like there is a radius on the bottom, but there is a radius there and a radius there. So the 1/2 inch will be partial. So let's just see what those look like. Oh, I jumped into it. I should have. Fillet, staying with the 1/2 inch. Yeah, that one, for whatever reason, doesn't look like it was 1/2 inch. So let's go check the drawing. And there's not a call out, but yeah, 0.25 would be a lot cleaner there. So I'm going to adjust on the fly as needed, and it added that to the mix. So all right, so there's a lot of blend going on there. So I should decide which ones I want to participate first. And it's still, yeah, there's a lot going on there. Well, let's get those two in. My general rule for fillets is if they go in easy, and let's see, this was 0.88, 0.75, so actually that's about 1/8 of an inch. So those could be 0.25. Depending on the tooling, that corner is not going to be sharp, and it's not going to be something that that we can reach. So if I was looking at this from the manufacturing perspective as opposed to, well, there is a little bit of a radius in the bottom, even though it's not showing up in the other views. So not sure where those consistencies. All right, so let's try that. We'll go ahead with those, and I'm going to include those. And usually I try to go from smallest to largest or largest to smallest, but that's not working out so well here. Alright, so issue with the corner is going to be even as the if we do a ball nose and the ball nose comes into that corner, this is going to be more of a swoop. We're not going to get that sharp corner, so that geometry not quite like that, but let's go with it for now. And when I do the manufacturing review, I will address those. So let's go with the 0.125 here and see if it will find that blend, so it doesn't have to climb up those walls. Alright, so that's looking better, and I wanted those in first just on the off chance that it made these even more complicated. or if the addition of these and that tried to climb up that wall made those more complicated. So on the one hand, the fillets and stress risers are handy, they're nice, and in this orientation, they're not really that great. So, alright, so they're still called out 1/2 inch. And on that side, and I really want this to kind of be symmetrical, but yeah, I'm not seeing it. So on the front side, find that geometry. We have a radius of 1.5 on this edge. So really would want that one to be 1.5 as well, but alright, so I've identified a few areas of concern. I think that the geometry is pretty good. Like I said, I'm not going to worry about too many details if I didn't catch it going through the first iteration. When we go into the assembly, it should be a little bit more apparent. So I think we're going to call this one done. Make sure to save, and we're ready to do the holder side.